I have been married to my husband for 6 years. We have 2 kids together, 8 and 4 males. Our youngest is special needs. My husband also has a daughter, 12, from his previous relationship. My husband's ex has had primary custody. My husband gets SD on weekends and alternating holidays/birthdays. This past weekend, my SD asked my husband if she can come live with him full time. Her mom recently moved in with her fiancé and his kids, and there's been some friction with that from what I understand. Nothing nefarious, just new house, new rules, having to share a bedroom, etc. My husband didn't give her an answer either way. He said he would look into it. When he and I were discussing it, I had the following objections. SD and our kids do not get along. It is something we have worked on for years, in and out of therapy, and it just ain't happening. SD resents mine for existing, and is cruel towards my youngest for their disabilities. There have been issues with her bullying. My oldest is very protective of his little brother and hates SD for being mean to his brother. He has started physical altercations with her over it. The truth is that most of the time we have SD, I make arrangements to take the boys to visit their grandparents, or husband takes her out of the house for daddy-daughter time to avoid conflict. I cannot imagine how living together full-time would be for them. We really don't have room. We have a 4BR home. Both my husband and I WFH so we can be a caretaker for my youngest. Due to the nature of his disabilities, it is really not feasible for him and my oldest to share a room. It wouldn't be safe or fair for my oldest. My SD's room is used as my WFH office space during the week. I arrange my vacation time and whatnot around her visitation so I can stay out of her space while she is here. I have to take very sensitive knee calls, and I need a closed door when I work, so common areas are out, and my husband uses our bedroom as his home office, so that's out too. We don't currently have room in the budget to make an addition to the house or remodel non-livable spaces at the moment. My husband hears my objections and understands them, but he wants to go for it and figures that everything will eventually work out. He doesn't want his daughter to think he is abandoning her. And I feel for the girl. It would be awful for your dad to say no when you ask if you can live with him. But I have my own kids to think about too, and I just do not believe that her living here is in their best interest at all, considering their history and our current living arrangements. Does saying no to this put me in evil stepmom territory? Edit, for the people who want to make me into an horrible homewrecker to go along with being an evil stepmom. Sorry to disappoint, but we did not have an affair. My husband and my stepdaughter's mom were never married. They were never in a relationship. They were friends with benefits. They bartended together, would shoot the bull, and would sometimes get drunk and fuck. My husband claims he needed beer, Google's cause she really isn't his type. When my SD's mom found out she was pregnant, she told my husband she was keeping it and asked if he wanted to be in the baby's life. They never lived together, except for a few weeks during the newborn stage to help out. Yes. I had my first before I married my husband. My husband and I were in a long-term relationship when I had a birth control malfunction. My husband and I discussed what we wanted to do, and we both decided we wanted to raise the child. A few days later my husband proposed. I wanted to take time to recover from birth and wait until our kiddo was old enough to pawn him off on the grandparents for the week so husband and I could enjoy our wedding. We didn't get married until my oldest was 2. Edit 2, regarding my unjust son's disabilities, SD's bullying, and my oldest starting fight, since there is a lot of projection and speculation. My youngest son has both physical and mental disabilities. He uses multiple kinds of medical and therapy equipment. My SD has shoved him out of his wheelchair. She has pinched him hard enough to leave bruises. She has hit his face when he was having trouble verbalizing. IDGAF if this is normal sibling behavior. It is alarming enough to me that I feel it is best for my youngest to spend as little time as possible with her until this behavior completely stops, and I will say it has lessened quite a bit. We went through a period of it happening frequently, and it has slowed. The last incident was 2 months ago when SD grabbed my son's wheelchair and aggressively pushed him out of her way because he was blocking the hallway. One of the times that my son had started an altercation with her was because she had told my son that his brother was not a real person and that she was going to call the hospital to have him taken away so they could perform experiments to find out what it was. She went into detail about things they would do to him. Like ripping his fingernails out. And yes, my son did lose his temper and hit her. My son was immediately disciplined, loss of tablet time, and we had an age-appropriate discussion about how his heart is in the right place to want to protect his little brother, but he needs to find an adult when something like that happens. This was not made up. Stepdaughter admitted she said it to my husband when he was able to sit her down and talk with her later in the day. I am not allowed to discipline or have parenting talks with SD per Biomom's wishes. I am not welcome to be a part of SD's therapy journey, mostly per Biomom's wishes. She does not want me involved. My husband has always been worried about rocking the boat with Biomom on these things. So I do not know the extent of what therapeutic treatments she has had. I do know she does go to therapy during the week, and my husband has gone to sessions, but it isn't something he is free to discuss with me. So I am in the dark about that. Edit 3, there's someone in the comments who claims to be my sister-in-law. They are either a troll or are mistaken. My husband is an only child. I don't have a sister-in-law. Update 1. So last week my husband and I sat down together and talked about SD coming to live with us full time and how that would work out. It was a difficult discussion because, as some Redditors had suggested, I really pushed hard for him to really think things through and figure out the obstacles. Where would he and I work? Common areas are out due to the nature of our jobs. I can't due to employer restrictions. He does some NSFW things and is we don't want the kids to see. How were we going to handle the animosity and bullying between the kids? What consequences would be in place? We talked about what expectations would be for SD living here full-time versus just weekends. About how she probably has unrealistic expectations about what the nitty-gritty life here is like. We talked through very possibility we could come up with. Including out there possibilities like selling out home or separating our household and living apart for a while. We ran numbers to see how it may affect our finances. And ultimately we agreed that the answer was not yet with a goal for our family working towards it. And that the best course of action would be to slowly adjust the amount of time she spends in our home versus a sudden custody switch. So free night my husband took SD out to talk to her about everything. He explained to her that she wouldn't have her own room at our place for a couple years but that is something that is on the top of the list for home improvements once our youngest handicap accessibility renovations are paid off. He talked to her about what expectations of living with us would be like. That she would have chores and responsibilities. And most importantly they talked about the bullying and laid down the provision that we needed to see her relationship and attitude towards her brothers improve before she can live here full time. SD obviously wasn't thrilled about any of this, but she said okay and that she would do better with her brothers. So Saturday I made arrangements for my parents to watch our sons, and we invited SD's mom over so we could all sit down and figure out how SD can start to spend more time here. And that is when it fell apart. Mom is not okay with a change in custody at all. Absolutely not was her answer. She took SD home early Sat. My husband tried to reach out to SD on Sun to see how she was and ask if she wanted to do their guitar lesson over Skype or something since her mom took her home early, but she never responded. He called SD's mom and she informed him that SD had lost her phone privileges. So we don't really know what is going on with all that. Update 2. I had a couple people asking if I would update and let you guys know how my husband is doing now that we are a couple months out from our D-Day. Some things are better, and others are a hell of a lot worse. Not long after I posted, my husband and I had the biggest, full-blown drawn-out fight of our entire relationship. I honestly cannot even tell you how it started. It was one of those little things that just triggered and all the stress, anger, resentment and other negative emotions we had been feeling were just completely taken out on one another. I took the kids and left afterwards. I refused to come home until my husband got his head out of his ass and talked to someone about all of this. The silver lining to the big blowout was it did spur my husband on to start dealing with everything. He has been to his doctor and has been prescribed medication and he has been looking for a therapist. He did a session with one, but didn't particularly click with them. He is going to pursue others as our finances allow. My husband and I discussed his drunken demand for paternity testing. I was able to express how hurtful that was to me. He apologized fully and has decided he does not need to have our sons tested right now. We've discussed options for what we'll do if doubt continues to linger on my husband's part, but as of now no testing is being done. Husband and I are both trying our best to show each other grace on this matter. The hell of a lot worse part is what is going on with stepdaughter. My husband had to take a few weeks without visitation to get his own emotions under control. Then we had our typical weekend visit. We did not tell stepdaughter or biomom about the test results yet, as we were still considering our options for the next move. My husband had ultimately decided that he still wanted a relationship with his daughter and still wanted to pursue legal custody. The attorney we had consulted suggested that with our state's laws and the established parental relationship, we should have a claim and could likely get court-ordered partial custody, but it would be a more complicated legal case. So that's all fine and dandy, but my husband in a very boneheaded move did not play his cards close enough to his chest with biomom. Several weeks ago they had a verbal altercation. We have not been able to get in contact with biomom, her fiancé or stepdaughter since. We contacted the police who told us this was a civil matter and we needed to go through the courts so no help there. Now on to second story. Found my mother sneaking through my phone, my father demanding money for bills, and now everyone's acting entitled to my paycheck. I, 16F, just got my first job like a month ago. Last week, I got my first ever paycheck, which was really exciting. Now one of the main reasons I got a job was so I could cover some of my own non-essential expenses, clothes, stuff for hobbies, room decor, some food, since my mother, 52F, is a Psalm, always has been, and I didn't want to be a burden for my father, 56F. Before I even got my first paycheck, I had budgeted exactly how much I wanted to spend and what I wanted to spend it on, since I didn't want to blow it all. My plan was to save at least half and spend what I didn't save. I'll admit, I did spoil myself a bit, got some new clothes, a new sewing machine, and am gonna nails done. All of this was only like $180 out of $500, but I also gave a portion to the church, as per my mother's request. I plan to put the rest of this in savings and not touch it. My mother is terrible with money. Like, blow through $800 in one day type of terrible. She's also always asking someone in my family for money like my dad, or my siblings, 22 meters and 21F, and usually they give it to her. But my sister's rent has went up and her work hours have been cut, so she doesn't have money to give out like she used to. And my brother isn't working because he's only home for the summer. My father also has some new expenses to pay, so basically, nobody has handouts for her anymore. So she decided to come to me. Since I first received my paycheck, she's been acting kind of weird. Like when I got it, she wouldn't leave me alone until I told her how much it was, even though I wasn't comfortable sharing that information with anyone. And then she started talking about how, in her culture, I'm a first-gen American, the entirety of a child's first paycheck is given to the parents as an offering and a way to show thanks for raising them. I told her that it's a good thing I wasn't born where she was, so I don't have to do that, and I thought she would stop. But she brought up how it's been so long since she got a pedicure, it's been literally 3 weeks. I said okay, and then she asked me if I would pay for it. I gave her $30, how much our regular nail salon charges for pedicures, and she got upset and said it wasn't enough. I told her that I didn't have any more to spare, and she said I was being greedy. Okay, whatever. Then, we went grocery shopping, which she paid for, as usual, with my brother's EBT card. I got a few snacks/ingredients and my food came up to like $27, which isn't bad since I share my snacks with my siblings and I cook for them too. But then, my mother starts complaining like if you're gonna eat all that, then you're gonna have to start paying for it too. It's rude to try and bankrupt your brother. I was upset that she was making comments on my eating habits, she's always making comments about my body, and also frustrated that she was trying to milk more money out of me, so I just told her to put all my snacks and stuff down and that I didn't need them really anyway. She got even more upset and said I was making a scene and being spoiled, but I just ignored her. The thing is though, it's not just her. My father is acting like this too. First, I took a shower. I do take kind of long showers, like usually 30-ish minutes, but this was never a problem until now. He literally stormed into the bathroom. Like he actually slammed the door open, super uncomfortable for me but WTVR, and told me that if I was gonna be wasting his water then I was gonna have to start pitching in for the water bill. And he was sorrowous. So now I don't shower when Hess home to avoid conflicts like this. And then, he told me to give him $50 to send to his family back home. I asked if he would pay me back, and he said he shouldn't have to, since Hess never asked me to pay him back for raising me. Basically, maybe I'm actually just being too stingy? They're not wrong that they never asked me to pay them back for raising me, so maybe I do owe it to them? But also I really don't make that much and I think I should be allowed to spend my money how I want to. I'm literally going into my senior year, which is so expensive already, and I don't want to spend all my money in the case of an emergency. I just really want to save, and they're not letting me do that, but if they're entitled, or maybe I am. Sorry if this is too long, Ada. I don't know how I forgot this, since this was actually really upsetting and the whole reason I made this post, but like a few days ago, I fell asleep on the couch, with my phone unlocked I guess, and like right after I dozed off, I feel someone grab my phone, which was next to my head, and so I wake up, and I look at her all confused and ask her to give it back and she did. But she forgot, or doesn't know how, to close recently used apps, so when I opened the phone, I saw that she had opened the Zelle app. And I don't want to accuse her of anything, but I feel like if I'd woke up any later, she probably would have sent herself money or something. But that was really weird. Ada 2, this has nothing to do with my title/story, but my mother just told me I was disappointing because I told her I would vacuum later since I have really bad cramps right now. Rude. Edit. I took a break from this post because I was overwhelmed by all the comments and advice, but thanks everyone for reading and, mostly, being patient and helpful. To respond to a couple things I keep seeing /clearing things up. 1. Sorry for taking 30-minute showers lol 2. Sorry that it's a tough pill for me to swallow that a bunch of strangers on the internet are calling my parents abusive. I'm not saying anyone's wrong or right and I seriously appreciate that you're all trying to help, but I'm not refusing solutions or, it's just a lot to handle by myself. 3. I'm kind of against talking to a trusted adult about all this, but it's not willful ignorance or anything. I don't have any close family, so the only options would be a therapist or a school counselor. I can't see a therapist because my mother is anti-therapy and talking to a school counselor is risky because she's required to tell CPS, and a case like that would put my mother at a pretty high risk of deportation. It's pretty personal and I don't want into it, but there's that. 4. I know it sounds like I'm being forced, but I am seriously a practicing Christian and I enjoy giving to the church. I never minded giving to the church, it was just that the amount I was expected to give, 10% of my pay, was a lot considering what I was earning. Update 1. It's been a while. I kind of stopped replying to comments and stuff cause they were getting kind of overwhelming, but THX for everyone who took the time to respond. If you didn't read / don't feel like it, basically I got my first job and my first paycheck, $500, and my parents felt like all of my money was rightfully theirs. Long story short, I ended up with $180 left of $500, and only $100 of those dollars were towards myself. Now for the actual update. Since my last paycheck, nothing has gotten better at all lol. I ended up giving up a total of like $200 to my parents for whatever they wanted, but they still wanted more. Like first, I had to pay for my own senior pictures, which was cool or WTVR, but kind of surprising because none of my siblings ever had to do that. Then they started asking me for gas money. Like, I had to go to the library, which is probably a 2-minute drive from my house. I would have walked but am literally not allowed to lol, and my mother was yelling at me and saying that if I was going to use her car, then I was going to have to put gas in it. Which would be reasonable, except they don't make anyone else do that. Like my 22-year-old brother actually drives their car and my mother gives him money out of my father's paycheck to put gas in it. But he's her favorite, so I guess it makes sense. Also, my father kept calling me stingy. Like, every day. Like I would just be sitting eating dinner and he would come to me and be like my daughter. Good at so many things but so stingy. And it started getting to me, so I would try and explain that I didn't have any more money until I got paid again. Then I got paid yesterday. It was like $500 again, and I was trying to hide it. Like I transferred the money from my bank to my Cash App so that my father wouldn't see that I had any money, and if they asked then I could play dumb. But today when I got home my parents started interrogating me. Like they were asking me how if I got paid or if I knew how much I was going to get paid. And I was lying and saying no. But then my father literally pulled out a paper copy of my pay stub lol. My job still mails those out and my parents open all my mail, packages, college letters, school forms, etc. So unless I'm constantly intercepting the mail, they might always know how much I'm getting paid. Then my mother was mad at me because last paycheck I paid for her pedicure and now she wants a manicure and her hair done. I tried to tell her I didn't have money but she refused to believe that and said that if I couldn't give her money, then I couldn't eat the food she worked so hard to make. She cooked today. So I just gave her $80 for her nails cause I'm over arguing. This is kind of a sidetrack but it's important-ish, but my parents arguing right now. My father is spending significantly more money out of all of his paychecks because of something that my mom committed them to financially. But the thing is that she still expects to be able to keep up with all of her self-maintenance, clothes, nails, hair, etc. Long story short, she said that she didn't need his money anyway, and so when I sent her the money for her nails she was bragging to him about how I gave her money and not him. So then my father was upset because he thinks I only sent her money because we're both women. He said it kind of harsher than that. He has misogynistic tendencies because of the culture he was raised in. So I ended up just giving him $80 to even it out. And I gave them both $30 extra for gas money. So they would stay off my ass. It should be over, right? No, it's not. Because I got in trouble for lying about getting paid. They think I'm lying because I plan on blowing it all on myself, which isn't true. I was gonna save this check to make up for what I spent of the last one. But now they think I'm selfish, stingy, and financially irresponsible. So they're gonna start limiting my spending. Of my own money. And the school year and my birthday are around the corner. And I'm pretty sure they're not gonna let me go out to dinner for my birthday like I planned. But that's not a money thing, I'm just not really allowed to go out. There's so much more I could say about my parents but that could probably be 15 different posts. And I'd guess they'd even be appropriate for this sub lol. But thanks for reading if you do. I'm sorry if this makes not a lot of sense, I'm just really tired. Like I'm over this whole thing. I wish I had somewhere else to vent but I literally don't.